The night was supposed to feel warm, full of lights, laughter, and familiar voices, but instead it felt endless and empty. Snow drifted through the air, settling quietly on silent streets where celebrations were happening behind closed doors. On a frozen bench beneath flickering Christmas lights, a mother sat holding her children close, trying to shield them from the cold and from a truth she couldn't say out loud. Her fingers were numb, her breath shaky, and every passing second made the night feel heavier. Around her, the town looked beautiful, almost magical, yet none of that beauty belonged to her anymore. There was no home to return to, no safe place waiting, only the cold and the fear of what tomorrow might bring. She listened to distant laughter echo through the night and wondered how life could feel so cruel on a day meant for love and togetherness. And in that silence, she held on to one fragile thought: maybe the night wasn't over yet. She pulled her coat tighter around her children, even though it did little to stop the cold, because what mattered more was making them feel safe. Her voice stayed calm as she answered their questions, soft and steady, hiding the panic rising in her chest. When one of them asked if Santa had forgotten them, she forced a smile, brushing snow from a tiny hat, and whispered that sometimes miracles arrive late. Inside, her heart felt heavy, cracked by fear and exhaustion, but she refused to let it show. Mothers learn to carry pain quietly, to turn worry into reassurance and tears into strength. Every shiver from her children felt sharper than the cold itself, and she silently promised that no matter what happened, they would not feel alone. Even as hope slipped through her fingers, she kept holding on, because as long as her children believed she was strong, she had no choice but to be strong too. It hadn't always been this way, and that was the part that hurt the most. Just months earlier, life had felt ordinary, even stable, until one sudden loss changed everything. Her husband's death came without warning, leaving silence where laughter used to live and responsibilities she was never prepared to carry alone. Bills stacked up faster than she could earn, and the small job she relied on vanished overnight. Each setback felt manageable at first, until they began to blur together, pressing down on her without mercy. She sold what she could, skipped meals, and told herself things would turn around soon. But hope doesn't pay rent, and sympathy doesn't stop eviction notices. 2 days before Christmas, the door closed behind her for the last time, and with it went the last sense of security she had. Standing in the cold now, she understood how quickly a normal life can disappear. Across the snow-covered lot, a truck slowed, its headlights cutting through the quiet like a pause in time. The man behind the wheel hadn't planned to stop, and for a moment, he almost didn't. Everyone carried their own burdens, their own boundaries, and he had learned long ago how easy it was to look away. But something about the small figures huddled together pulled at him, a feeling he couldn't explain or ignore. He stepped out into the cold, boots crunching against the snow, sensing a familiar ache he thought he'd buried. Years of discipline had taught him to stay guarded, yet instinct pushed him forward. As he drew closer, he noticed the thin coats, the trembling shoulders, the quiet desperation in the air. This wasn't just a passing scene, it was a moment asking to be answered. And in that instant, he chose compassion over comfort. He spoke gently, as if raising his voice might shatter the fragile moment between them. There was no judgment in his words, no questions that demanded explanations, only a simple concern that felt almost unfamiliar. She wanted to refuse, to protect herself the way life had taught her to, but exhaustion had worn her defenses thin. Trust didn't come easily anymore, especially from a stranger, yet something in his calm presence felt steady, safe. She looked at her children, their faces pale and tired, their eyes silently asking her to choose warmth over fear. Her hand trembled as she hesitated, weighing every warning her past had carved into her heart. Then she realized doing nothing was the greatest risk of all. Slowly, she accepted his help, not because she was certain, but because hope, however fragile, was still better than the cold. That single choice changed the direction of everything. Days passed, then weeks, and life began to feel lighter in ways she had almost forgotten were possible. The children laughed more, slept peacefully, and stopped flinching at every small sound. Warm meals replaced empty nights, and stability slowly took the place of fear. He never tried to be a hero, he simply showed up, again and again, offering help without expecting anything in return. In that quiet consistency, healing took root. She found her footing, rediscovered her strength, and felt her heart open just enough to let hope back in. Even he changed, finding purpose in protecting something gentle after a life spent surviving harshness. What began as a single moment on a frozen night grew into a future neither of them had imagined. Sometimes miracles don't arrive loudly or all at once. Sometimes they begin with one act of kindness that quietly changes everything.